So really my addiction started when I had turned 15 and I started to rebel from my parents. And I started sneaking out of the house and, doing all the curious things that a teenager does and experiencing what it was like to drink and smoke marijuana and really just trying to live carelessly, considering the fact that I really wasn't allowed to do many things. Unfortunately, I did pay the price for some of my actions. When I was 15, I snuck out of the house one night and I went to a party. I unfortunately had blacked out and I had asked somebody for a ride home, and I woke up the next morning in a house and in a bed naked by myself. I was already scared to death because I hadn't made it home. So with that being said, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want my parents to be mad at me. They were already discouraged enough because I wasn't home. They were worried. So I just pretended like nothing had ever happened. I think it was about 5 months later, I had gone to the family planning to get on birth control because I knew that some of my choices that I was making, I should probably invest in some proper precautions. And I found out that I was 5 months pregnant. When I finally did find out who his dad was, it wasn't because of a coincidence or anything like that. He had actually lived in Spokane and came back over here to play on a co-ed softball team. And he had mentioned my name to one of my relatives, and they had mentioned it to me and my parents, and we kind of put everything all together and decided to have him DNA tested, and come to find out it was 99.99%. And at that point I was 18 years old. So going back, I was 15 and he was 25. So the statute of limitations had already been up for me to be able to press any statutory rape charges or anything of that such. So really what I wanted to do was just be able to give my son the opportunity to know who his dad was. I, always strived to be the best parent that I possibly could for him, but my addiction also had, its grips on me as well. So I would say, it wasn't until I had met my present boyfriend that I have now. I was 25, I believe, when him and I met. And I had totally just fallen in love with him, but he had no idea that I was addicted to, meth. Because by the time the crank had ended, meth had become my drug of choice. I couldn't function without it. I needed to make sure that I was a functionable addict because I didn't want anything to present itself to show that I was addicted. So I was a very low-key user. There weren't very many people who knew that I used meth, and he certainly was one of those people, including my family, that I didn't want to know anything. So I would say March of 2001, my oldest son and I were in a really bad car wreck. I had an elderly man who was driving a rental car turn in front of me, and I hit him going 60. And I tried so hard to throw my arms over my son to make sure that he was going to be okay. And unfortunately, when I had woken up, I was actually in the ditch. And that was because I had gotten out of the car after I had gotten my knees out of the dash. My front teeth were broken off. My chin was split. My eyelid was split. But my most important thing was trying to help my son. And the adrenaline had hit me so hard that I had just passed out in the ditch. When I had woken up, he was still in the car, strapped in a seatbelt. He was 8, and I thought, okay, well, he doesn't appear to be injured, so, it's gonna be okay. I can remember the ambulance ride all the way to the hospital and my son screaming and crying, asking me, you know, Mom, why'd you do that? Why'd you hit him? And I can remember telling the EMTs, you know, please tell him that it wasn't my fault, you know, and that somebody pulled out in front of me and I had no time to stop, you know. And so they get us to the hospital and they take care of me. My son's on the other side and he's still crying. And I can visualize it today. The scared feeling that I had that there was something wrong with my son.